We're calling this next segment Love, Money, Responsibility, and Divorce. When it comes time to dividing the money and the assets in a divorce, couples in the gray divorce demographic, those ages 50 and older, often face heightened financial risk. Why? Well, they're not just separating households, but they're nearing retirement or they already are living on fixed incomes because they left corporate America. The timing can create serious economic strain. The challenges people face in a gray divorce are reduced household income, withdrawing from or borrowing against retirement accounts, and having less time to rebuild savings before retirement account, which can have significant financial consequences. Well, here to walk us through everything you need to know is our longtime contributor, Donna LaScala, president of Comprehensive Divorce Solutions in New York. Donna is also a certified divorce financial analyst, a registered financial consultant, and a member of the New York State Council on Divorce Mediation. Donna, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being here. And while the overall divorce rate is going down, the demographic we're still seeing an uptick in is what we call the gray divorce, which we just identified in the open. So let's turn our attention to this age group. According to AARP, divorce rates for adults 65 and older have tripled since 1990, rising from 5.2% to 15.2% by 2022. And many in this category have retired from the workforce. For the couple who've been married, let's say 20, 30, or even 40 years and are now looking to dissolve their marriages, how are they supposed to satisfy all the financial responsibilities plus paying alimony if they're no longer employed?
So this is really a great way to begin this segment because let's put a framework on it. In most states, there is a standard that needs to be met when it comes to spousal support. And most states have a couple of things in that framework, one of which talks about income. So there's a cap on income that is used in order to figure out the calculation of spousal support. It's joint income, then there's the calculation, and usually there's a disparity between the incomes when there is spousal support on the table. The other part of that framework is time frame. So for a long-term marriage, 20 years or more, 30 years, 40 years, the standard is usually 35 to 50% of the duration of the marriage where spousal support is expected to be paid. So think about that for a second. If we're talking about a 30-year marriage, 50% of that duration is 15 years. 40-year marriage, 50% of that duration is 20. More often than not, when you're talking about a long-term marriage, you're talking about people who are in their 50s and 60s. So this becomes a huge bone of contention in the negotiation process because the first question that's usually asked is, I'm about to retire in 2 years. Am I supposed to pay my ex-spouse spousal support on income that I'm no longer earning? And it becomes a challenging conversation because we don't want to say absolutely yes because we can't force or mandate that someone continue to work past normal retirement age. The reality of the situation is that people are sometimes working longer, especially since max on some pension benefits can be a lot later than 65 years of age. People are pushing things out a little bit more. But if you've got a 63-year-old who says, yeah, no, I'm retiring at 65, end of story, you can't say to that person, well, you're going to have to work for the next 20 in order to pay your spouse. So it's a very difficult conversation to have. It's an ugly topic because one spouse is expecting to continue to be supported in some way as they were during the marriage, and the other spouse is saying, hey, wait a minute, I can't be expected to do this for the rest of my life. This is crazy. There's got to be some other way. So we have to start talking about the alternatives of what can happen, what should happen, the reality of the situation financially, emotionally, the expectations of each person, and also what else is available as far as assets that may be able to be divided in a different way in order to make sure that the spouse that has less income actually has more resources. But it's a very unique thing in each particular circumstance. You can't say black and white, cookie cutter, yeah, this is the way it's going to happen. You have to really look at all of the particular points in that particular situation and say, okay, this is going to work for this couple, but it may not work for the next couple.
Speaking of the Great Divorce, at a CDFA, which stands for Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, you say the big concern with this group is income, not assets. Why?
Okay, so let's talk about the fact that before retirement and in the years leading up to retirement, things are taking a different turn as far as the future is concerned, because you're going from earned income to retirement income. And there are 2 points of that become very, very specifically difficult to navigate through. One of those is a pension, and the other one of those is Social Security. So let's talk about Social Security for a second, because everyone's familiar with the concept. You apply for Social Security, but there are points of pain and points of access that really need to be acknowledged. The first time you can possibly, and maybe you shouldn't, but the first time you can possibly apply for Social Security is at age 62. You then have the next framework of ages, which is called your full retirement age. Now, that's dependent upon when you were born. So let's look at the bigger group now, which is anyone born in the year 1960 or after. So people that were born in 1960 just turned 65. That is not their full retirement age any longer. It's actually 67. So anyone born in the year 1960 or after, your full retirement age is 67. Why is this important? Because if you actually apply for Social Security before you reach your full retirement age, there will be a reduction. I'm going to get back to that in a second. The next age is 70. For everyone, age 70 is when you actually max out for Social Security, because you're no longer getting those 8% increases for waiting until age 70. Let's get back to full retirement age for a second. If you apply for Social Security before you reach your full retirement age, you will have a reduction in payment, and it's permanent. It will never increase back to where it was supposed to be. So say you're the spouse of someone who has reached the age of 70 and has taken their max Social Security, and let's call it $4,000. As the spouse, you're entitled to up to 50% of that benefit, so that's $2,000. But if there's a discrepancy in age and the spouse is 65 and their full retirement age, remember, is 67, there will be a reduction in that benefit. So they will not receive $2,000, they will receive less. Now the other spouse is still receiving their full $4,000. So now let's rewind and say they're still married, and this scenario occurs. Spouse A, full retirement at age 70, max gets $4,000. Spouse says, you know what? We're still married. I'm 65. I'm going to just apply for my spousal benefit, and say they get the reduction and it's $1,500 a month. So now together they're making $5,500. But if they're separated or divorced, spouse A is still getting $4,000, but spouse B is only getting $1,500. That's a significant difference in income. Now, how do we make up for that? Well, you can't go back to Social Security and say, oops, I made a mistake, and now I'm divorced, and I need to get the full amount. It doesn't happen. So now you have to have some difficult conversations about what do we do for spouse B, because it's really not equitable to have one spouse getting $4,000 of income and the other one only getting $1,500. And that was a decision that was made when you were still in the I love you stage of the marriage. And now it has some serious ramifications.
Yeah, speaking of the discrepancy in income, many working couples tend to earn different incomes, and that could be based on the field they're in, or maybe one person's job was more demanding in terms of time in the office. And since marriage is a team, maybe the other person decided to step back from a full-time gig or not apply for the promotion because jointly they decided to devote those hours to one person staying home more to deal with family stuff and the kids. However, you were telling me in a divorce, doing all this does not have a recognized monetary value. How do divorce professionals compensate the parent who made the professional sacrifice so the other person can have the big career?
Well, this is where spousal support becomes very crucial because you have to make sure that things are as equitable as possible, but that's also where you can be creative and start looking at assets that are available. So say spousal support is supposed to be paid at $1,000 a month, for 10 years. So $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year times 10 years. That has a lump sum value. So say you're, again, back in this nearing retirement phase. Well, let's front load this agreement and say that the spouse that's supposed to get the spousal support is now going to get a lump sum of $120,000. And that actually makes them whole in a certain way. Or you can say, you know what, let's speed up the payment and let's pay more for a shorter period of time. There's lots of creative ways to go around this, but it has to be addressed.
Donna, thank you so much for joining us. Donna LaScala, President of Comprehensive Divorce Solutions. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this commercial break. Stick around.
At Comprehensive Divorce Solutions, Donna LaScala provides the tools for people to deal with assets, debts, equitable distribution, and retirement in divorce negotiations. We hold your hand during and after the divorce process, providing a roadmap of what happens next and into the future. Divorce is difficult whether you're initiating it or not. It's fraught with emotion. When you deal with emotions, you are not dealing with logic, making it more difficult to decide what to do with your money. Hiring a professional to assist you in walking down the money path is crucial to avoiding potentially costly mistakes. Donna's goal is to make sure that each individual knows how they are going to be able to survive and thrive during and after divorce. As a CDFA-trained mediator and collaborative financial neutral, Donna helps people get unstuck and move forward towards their post-divorce future. Call Donna LaScala at 516-218-6919, 516-218-6919.